Good afternoon, Scano. Nice to see everyone today, and welcome to our environmental collective. It's our second one, and this was kind of I want to say it was ad hoc that we started this last week. It was, but we've been having this conversation, I think, for almost a year with some of you. Welcome. This is going to be our time and space through the week to have guests come. I want to say experts in a sense, but more, passionate people about the earth and food and each other, and just really being efficient and, sustainable the best way that we can for each other and for the future and the coming phases. So I'd like to welcome everyone that is joining us from, across this beautiful nation, and from, whatever territory you're in, joining my friends today. Here we have that are from communities surrounding my area, where I'm in Oakville right now, but our center is in Milton. And we have Wendy Robert, that's a part of Sustainable Milton. She's a part of the board and, active in our community. And we also have Kevin Hamilton, who's an environmentalist and a lead farmer at McQuesten Farm, Urban Farm in Hamilton. And then Andrea Rowe, who's the director of Sustainable Environments in Halton, Environmental Network here in Halton. So I want to just welcome everyone for joining us, and again, just sharing that, we started this collective because we were having these conversations one-on-one, over here in this, area, and really feeling that we needed to just create this opportunity to share ideas, get people into action. And more importantly, what we just talked about is making sure that, we're not leaving anyone out in learning how to plant, and, the food S's that we say, that we've called this, right? Security, survival, sovereignty. I think we can think of so many more S's that have to do with food and what we need to do. So maybe everyone can just say their hello, and then we'll get to talking about, the seeds and our discussion today, which is seed starting. Start your plants in the early spring to grow healthy crops from seed to harvest. Welcome, everyone. Go ahead, Kevin. You can say hello first, and then.
Hello, everyone. It's I know it's a little bit challenging when you look and see all the snow outside to be thinking about these things, but we're going to start thawing out our soil bags soon and getting the seeds going. So thanks for having me.
Go ahead, Wendy. You're unmuted.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Okay, so again, thanks for the invite, Jody. Sustainable Milton is really a fairly new organization, but we want to get our hands dirty and dig in and work on some of our own gardens, but really help out with and learn a lot. We have a lot to learn about all of the gardens around, particularly Milton, but we will definitely head down to Hamilton and elsewhere in Halton. Thanks again for having us.
Mm-hmm. Likewise. Thank you, Jody, for the invitation. Good to see you again, Kevin. Carry on our conversation from last week. And here at Halton Environmental Network, we work in community housing neighborhoods. We work with faith-based organizations. We work with the towns and the region, trying to green our spaces and make our community as sustainable as possible. So food and native wildflowers and grasses. I'm all excited to get my seed started.
Wonderful. All right. Well, I'm not as green. I'm not like really good with planting. I know I can love them and do the best I can from my heart, but I'm so interested to be a part of this conversation to learn. So I'd love to just take it away, and I'll watch the comments and the chats on the side. Anyone watching, if you have any questions, please share them, and take it away, Kevin. Tell us what we need to know, ladies.
Sure. So again, my name's Kevin, and I'm working at McQuesten Urban Farm. We're in Hamilton, Woodward, and Barton area, and we'll be doing workshops and stuff all season. And we're just getting our seedlings going. So I've been a certified organic farmer forever, so I tend to choose organic seeds and crops. And the first thing you'll notice about, like, I use this one company called Johnny's. Johnny was a plant breeder. He sold the company to the employees because business was becoming a headache, and he just wanted to do the plant breeding. So it's a really great kind of worker owned, and I really enjoy all that fair tradey stuff. Johnny's, another company is High Mowing. They're also in the US, and they're the largest farm-based seed company in North America. And they sued the American government for the contamination of their chard and beet seeds because they legalized GMO beet seeds. So I also really like that. And they won. And then William Dam is a local seed house that's in just in Flamborough here in Hamilton. They are a little slow on getting their seed orders out. So if anybody's looking to order seed, sooner the better. OSC is another local one in Ontario. Stokes is another one. And then West Coast Seeds out in BC, and their turnaround time is pretty quick for people looking to get seeds soon. So with all that, when I am selecting my seeds, I'm always looking for northern hardy varieties. And Andrea or Wendy, if you guys have any experience and know any varieties that are earlier to maturity, please chime in. I know, like, for peppers, they're kind of a tough one in our climate. We're in the banana belt here around the Golden Horseshoe, so we have a little bit better luck. But I know King of the North is one that's a 65-day. Generally, I'm looking for 85 days to be my max for tomatoes and peppers, so that I'm going to be getting a month or 2 months of solid production out of it, especially if I'm trying to make money or just feed my family, like to be able to get plenty of peppers out to roast and store. Tomatoes, I know a lot of the black tomatoes are Russian varieties, and they are usually a lot hardier. And the flavor is really great on them too. I know they look a little bit funny or weird, but the flavor is very dynamic and robust. I really like the Russian varieties. So any of those, I know Moscovich is a 55 or 60-day tomato. Stupice, Stupice, is another short day. Generally, if you're in and around the Hamilton region, Southern Ontario, you'll be able to get tomatoes and peppers dependably. If you're a little bit further north, like Durham and upwards in Ontario, or other parts of Canada, you're definitely going to want to be looking for those short day ones. I know with squash, spaghetti squash, there's some 85-day varieties. Acorn, there's some 75, even 65-day varieties.
When you say, Kevin, when you say 60, I'm thinking, for me, who doesn't, this is my first year doing this. So, so when you say 65-day, 30-day, what does all of that mean to someone like me who is, I'm not as deep as you are, but I want to understand that.
Sure. So if you look in the seed catalogs, it'll say days to maturity. So that's kind of like when you first put the seed in the ground to when you're going to harvest it. So if you're starting your seedlings inside, which you can for squash and tomatoes and peppers, and that would actually be recommended. You don't have to for squash, but that would be some seed in to 85 days. It'll be ripe and mature so that you can harvest it. And for the stuff that's longer term storage, like squash, you're going to want that. Then there's the whole part of sweating squash out for 2 weeks at over 80 degrees Fahrenheit in a greenhouse so that it cures the outside, and then it's good for long-term storage. That's another conversation. We're talking about starting the seeds. So yeah, just the shorter days to maturity is what I'm actually looking at. Yeah, and there's a bunch of ones that are quicker to harvest, and that's always advantageous if you're hungry or you're trying to sell food. Yeah. And then the other consideration is hybrid versus heirloom. So as a production farmer trying to make a living, I go both ways. I have my garden for the family and then the garden for the production. Hybrid variety
Did he freeze?
He
Andrea?
did.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you want to, yeah. We'll
Well,
jump in.
yeah, I was just going to jump in and, I think knowing how to read your label is really important to know, and also understanding what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And, he kind of froze partway through that sentence. He's got his home garden versus a production garden. And we do neighborhood gardens as well. So we're only in the garden a couple of times a week, and then other people are caring for it. So understanding the ease of what you're planting as well, and the days to maturity, so that we don't get home gardeners trying to sprinkle their tomato seeds out in the garden in May and then wondering why they don't have any tomatoes, because they haven't had a long enough growing season to ripen and mature those fruits that are trying to grow. So Kevin, if you want to jump back in now that you're unfrozen, but just
Sure.
expanding on reading the label and understanding the purpose of what you're growing and where you're growing it.
Absolutely, yeah. And then on that label, it'll tell you if they can be transplanted, which if you have that space and natural light in your house, and then you can do supplemental lighting. One thing before I talk lighting, germination tests. So I just found this seed packet. It says 2021. And so I just do simple germination tests. If you have like a lot, like that's cauliflower. So you'll get 200 to 300 in a packet, especially if they're heirlooms, which is a lot. And so I do a really simple germ test. You could just do 10 or you could do 25 or however many seeds you have. But if you stick to 10, then just multiply it by 10 and you'll get your percentage. But I just have a plate here and brown paper towel. I'm going to drip a little. Just brown paper towel, or you can even use paper towel in general. And I counted out my 25 seeds and I stuck them on the plate. And then I covered it with water. And then I put another plate on top of it too to kind of keep the moisture in there. And I'll put it in a warm spot. A lot of stuff will do best in about 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's the temperature I try to keep them at. And then I'll just watch it, keep it moist. And I'll look every day at them and see if there's a little sprout coming out the bottom. And then we'll know if things are viable.
Yeah. And the reason you want to know your germination rate is because each plant has a recommended spacing. So for every 6 inches, you plant a seed, or 12 inches, or however big the plant is going to be when it's fully grown. So if you have a 10% germination rate, you might want to plant 2 seeds per hole per space instead, because not all of them are going to germinate. But if you've got a 95% germination rate, you don't want to crowd your plants. So you do use the proper spacing, and then you can go back. And if they don't all germinate, well, you might have an extra hole that you can fill with some companion plants or some ornamentals.
That's amazing. So if you see that it starts to grow, sprout, what do you do with it? Do you put it in some dirt, or you just kind of go, oh, that was my test?
If it's that time, yeah, you could start the seedlings. Otherwise, you could eat it.
Okay, that's good. I would probably do that. That would be me.
Or to the compost.
Or the compost, yes. Okay.
I start most of my seeds this way. I like to know when but I do it on a much smaller scale than what Kevin is doing. So if I want to start 20 seedlings of tomatoes, then I will put out maybe 20 or 30 seeds. And when they start to grow, I'll gently lift that germinated seed and put it in my 4-inch pot, because I don't need to start thousands and thousands of seeds. But then I know, and I see that excitement of when they're starting to germinate, and I'm like, okay, it's time to go. So then I can pot them up. So it, again, depends on the scale of what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, amazing.
So yeah, and then you don't have wasted space if you have a tray of 50 or 72s. You don't have that little soil that nothing came up in. So yeah, I mean, I do all my peppers, I do all my eggplants that way. There's just certain things I will. Otherwise, I'll do, like for lettuce, I'll do 2 or 3 seeds per cell, because those are the abundant ones. Same with like broccoli and stuff, you'll get 300 per packet. So you can kind of do 2 or 3.
Yeah, and if they're super small seeds that aren't easy to transplant, you can, sprinkle them out right on the tops, and you'll see when they germinate. And then you can always cover them over with a little bit more soil if you need to.
This is wonderful. I just want to say, just to kind of share again why we're doing this, why we're having this live, and how we started these relationships was the Urban Indigenous Center in Milton, received some area to grow, some garden area. And it's really important that we do this work and we do it together. And so this collective of voices that have come forward to support our urban community, they're doing this for us. With us. And so it's really wonderful to be able to, and to just know that we're going to grow together and really make this space available for all people to come and plant and grow with us. So I just wanted to express my gratitude to you guys for taking this time to come and share this knowledge with us. So we have some comments in our, in the area. Yo, it's Vic. I don't know if you have a buddy, Kevin, or somebody has a friend coming to watch. What's up, Vic? Hey.
Hey, Vic.
Hey, Vic. And Jackie's asking, what fertilizer do you need for corn, peppers, and onions?
Yeah, I'm of two veins there.
None.
Yeah. Compost is great. I mean, if you can get your hands on worm compost, I always kind of hold that in the top shelf of compost. I also use liquid seaweed fertilizers. So Ascophyllum is this type of kelp that has all the 88 minerals in it. And I mean, this is all water soluble, so the plants will take it right away. We are learning now through soil science that all soil, sand, soil, clay have 100,000 years of fertility. We're just microbially bankrupt. So the best thing that has happened to backyard gardening, small scale farming is all these little grow up specific like cannabis operations where it's a garden center that caters to the cannabis growers. And they have all these different types of, like, I've been making my own bokashi. And this is something that you can take food scraps, bury it in the ground, sprinkle bokashi over it, then put soil on it. And in 2 weeks, you'll have nice humus, nice looking soil. And all that green matter has been digested and turned back into soil. And it's all about the microorganisms. And they also have these packets of because there's endorhizal and ectorhizal fungi that grows on the roots and in and around the roots of your plants, and they have a symbiotic relationship with the plants. The plants send sugars and exudates out to bring in the bacteria and then feed the fungi as well. And when we can get that activity happening, they're recycling the nutrients. They're grabbing onto the crystalline structure of the soil and making those things available. So without getting into it too much, because it turns into like PhD stuff, you can buy these little powdered inoculants that I mix in with my soil, and then I start my seedlings that way. So then I have that inoculated in my cell, and when it goes out into the soil, it should be able to start to colonize that soil. Long story short, worm compost is great.
Yeah, Jackie thought that was a simple question, but as I learned as a kid, when I asked my dad what I thought was a yes/no question, it turned into like a dissertation. So it's never that easy. It's all about feeding the soil, making sure you've got healthy soil, lots of microbial activity, and that soil feeds the plant. So it's not so much about what fertilizer do you need, it's what do you need to make healthy soil. And each plant requires different nutrients in the soil. So when I plant corn, I'll toss some coffee grounds in there because they like a higher nitrogen level. And peppers, specifically, not as familiar with what the needs are, but just do some quick research around specific things that you can add. But for me, it always comes back to add compost, make sure you've got healthy soil. And that's the 30-second answer.
It's a good foundation. Yeah. You can do with whatever compost you do get, as long as it's proper compost and it's been broken down. I put them in little bags that are permeable, and then you can aerate or just stick it in a bag and stir that and make compost teas. Aerated is always the best, but yeah, rabbit poop works well for us as fertilizer. Yep. as long as, again, as long as it's not fresh, right? Like it has to be broken down because that's where we get the pathogens and all that bad stuff. So most of the recalls on spinach and that has been bad fertility management.
Yeah.
Where
E. coli from heavy spring rains and
any fresh manures and stuff that go down, that's a no-no. It needs 110 days to break down in the soil before those are like pathogen free. And especially on greens, you don't want to be putting fresh manure anywhere near that because you're eating that. So,
this is why I want to hang out with you guys.
What is the best formula and how do you measure the right soil?
Oh, my simple answer didn't work.
Another dissertation.
Bison manure. Wow, not as common around here.
True enough. Yeah. Again, as long as I'd say it's aged or broken down. Like, I mean, compost, the definition of compost is when you get animal manures or just plant material, whatever, and you've got it in a pile and the center of the pile warms up to 65 degrees Celsius. And then for 3 days, and then you flip it and consolidate the pile again. And then you wait until it's warmed up to 65 for another 3 days, flip it, and then you do it a third time. And that way, when it's 65 Celsius for 3 days, 3 different times, all sides of that soil has gotten into that heat and all the pathogen is broken down. All the weed seeds are broken as well. So you're not spreading weeds out into so that's the definition of compost. And I would try to make sure that I get, especially as an organic farmer, I need to have that paper trail and know that it's properly treated compost that has been brought up to temperature.
Mm-hmm.
You can feel free to chime in anytime.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking about, we as humans, we want to eat a healthy diet, and our soil also needs different micronutrients in it, depending on what the plant is going to need and what it is that the plant needs to produce. So, the different micronutrients that are in that tomato versus the corn that you're growing, that all has to come from somewhere to feed that plant. So the more variety of things that are being added into the compost, again, would be beneficial. So when I do worm composting seminars, I say, what is cow manure, and what do cows eat and what do sheep eat? So those types of manures are good. And then what do worms eat? So they will, classroom bin, we try and teach the kids to feed them that rainbow of colorful fruits and vegetables. And so all of those different food groups are being added in there that the worms are eating. And now that compost contains all of those micronutrients and minerals and vitamins that we're feeding back into the soil to feed the plants and continue that cycle. So,
and that worm compost is like 50 to 60% humus. And those are like humic acids and fulvic acids are the ones that really start to break things down and make things available. And that humus is water retention capabilities in that living soil is great. So in times of stress, when it's like too much rain or not enough rain, or what do you call it? When there's no rain, the ability of that humus to hold that moisture in the soil is huge. On that note, for soil mediums, when I'm buying my soil bags, I always try to find the ones that have coconut hull or coconut husks in it, because that really, really, really retains the moisture as well, so that I don't have to water. Like I can go a whole day without watering if I can water my seedlings. Depending on the deeper your seedling plugs are, the more they're going to retain water and hold it. So the shallower ones got to get watered more frequently. But I can go a whole day and just put things in the shade and not have to water with the ones that have coconut husks and all. And that's another regenerative thing. So I really like using that. Most of them are peat based. So, and then those fungi inoculants are definitely good. Just in the interest of time, because we've got short, I just wanted to talk really quick too. When I make compost teas and that, I'm at the urban farm. So this is a Grow Right garden hose filter. And it just takes out all the chlorine and all the junk that's in city water, so that I just have pure water on the other end. They're $40 and they do, 150,000 liters of water. So for $40 to get that is amazing. And then you're not putting chlorine and stuff that's going to kill your microorganisms in your soil. So these are great. And again, like it's garden shop that's catered to cannabis growers. So yeah, this is a really amazing thing, and they usually have them on hand. And then one other thing about lighting, like, so you can see above me there, those are just your typical fluorescent long strip bulbs. And so I will start things with those when I don't have the sun space. And then we have these LED lights. This is like just a square LED light. These are a little bit more energy intensive. There is strip lighting. You can get LED lights as well. If you're using those fluorescents, I just keep them like this close to the seedlings, and I just keep on moving it up. And I just use coffee cups to balance it, and then put a little piece of wood under the coffee cup and keep moving it up as things grow. But the problem is that if you're doing it with not full spectrum lighting, you have to, when you start to put things out into real light, you have to do like 4 hours or 5 hours the first day, and then give it shade, and then 6 or 7 hours the next day. And you got to keep on moving them back and forth. Otherwise, it's like they get sun scald because they're not used to how the UV is going to be intense on them. And then they'll get this white kind of sunburn on them. And they usually always bounce back, and I usually always get a little bit of it if I'm too light dependent.
I love it. I feel like I know what you're talking about. Like, I don't need to teach this, but I know that if I wanted to start, gently with myself and planting something with my daughter or family, I feel comfortable. I feel like what you guys just explained to me was great. You guys should have your own show. And then Jackie just asked about living in Northern Canada and growing corn in a greenhouse. Like, is it best to grow corn in a greenhouse living in Northern Canada? Or Ontario, Northern Ontario, she said.
You definitely can. I mean, it's more about knowing your bioregion, like what zone you're in and how many frost-free days you have. And also if you're looking at eating just fresh corn, or if you're looking at dried corn to grind to make, whatever you're going to make with corn flour. So yeah, and then looking at those days to maturity. So if it's a 65 or 70 day to maturity corn, or if it's a longer one, like generally it's about 100 days-ish, maybe even a bit more, to get it dried on stock so that you can then fully dry it out in your greenhouse or whatever and save it for long-term storage.
And so I remember, Kevin, at the beginning you had mentioned before we even came live that you might have a little something that you're doing that you're going to let us watch. Should we just, even though we're tight for time, do it or what?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was just, I just wanted to show the
germinating. Okay.
Germination on the plates, and then this filter. And then I didn't have any of the little baggies of the different mycorrhizal and endo and ectorhizal fungi inoculant stuff. There's like Bacillus megaterium is this one that it seems to be in a lot of these inoculants, and it is breaking up phosphorus and making it available like nothing they've ever seen. We're just on the tip of the iceberg of understanding these microorganisms and these fungi. And it's so inspiring to see the new research coming out and just how we can clean up the planet in like 3 years of the carbon problems. We can get the carbon back in the soil with all these microorganisms doing the job for free for us.
Amazing. Andrea, hi again, Wendy. Welcome back.
Sorry about that. I got booted out somehow.
Glad to have you back.
Thank you.
Yeah. So is there anything that you want, anything else that you wanted to add? I know that we had, we wanted to make sure that we covered things so that people can actually feel comfortable and even just get a basic understanding even, right? I'm noticing, some of the people that are visiting are actually, people that have experience and just commenting that this is great, that having the space in place to have these conversations to share, there's a lot of people that want to do more and want to be involved. And, so this really is to inspire people to move, to get into action, go find your community garden that's close to you. Andrea, I took my my little dog to the dog park in an old area that I used to live in, just in Oakville, West Oakville, like beautiful. I can't like, it's wonderful to see the development and the community gardens that are there. It's like 3 times the size from when, when I was there like 15, 20 years ago or whatever it was. And that's really what we want to do, is inspire people to, to really move into that place of taking care of yourself and your family, your gardens.
Yeah. It helps us get through these last days of winter as well, to start our seeds. We just did a workshop on the weekend about how to start winter sowing some seeds outside, including vegetables, and creating makeshift greenhouses so that you don't have to have a big industrial greenhouse that we're all jealous that Kevin has and we don't. But we can do something on our driveway, in our backyard, on a balcony. We can grow wherever we live. We just have to tailor it a little bit and figure out what is the most important thing that I need to grow to be happy. What am I going to eat? What am I going to find beautiful and give me joy? And we'll help you figure out a way to do it.
And maybe not for this particular conversation, but we've just last summer added 12 or 14 garden boxes, starting a community garden at the Italian Cultural Center down the road from Grandmother's Voice. So wondering, maybe not now, but what would you recommend for fairly new vegetable gardeners and gardens in terms of what seeds might we want to start currently?
Mm-hmm.
Just off the top of my head, like leeks, I generally start now. Celery root. If you wanted to do artichokes, which are a little longer season, those are another good one to start early right now. Those are pretty much the ones that I start. Like, I'm not looking at doing anything too exotic right now.
For me, the top 3 to start soon now: tomatoes, peppers, eggplant. For community gardeners, those are like the only 3 that I'll be starting this early in the season. Maybe some onions.
Okay.
Yeah. But for higher volume, again, it depends on what your purpose is. So we're producing food that goes into food banks. So those are the ones that we stick with.
Okay.
Right. Onions are another one on my list. I started doing them in April last year, a little later, but prior to that, I'd always started them in February, March. So yeah, it's just, I'm just experimenting with different ways.
And I love this, like even just that reminder, Andrea, that, the work that you do and you all do in your community is to feed your community, right? Like the McQuesten farm is right in the middle of a community, in the heart of a community, right? Andrea, what you're doing in Hen and all the wonderful projects are throughout Halton, from, north, south, east, west. And I just think this is wonderful work. And if there's anything that, that we could do as urban Indigenous people, learning more about our own culture and being able to do this in, with the land, with the community, the only way to do this is to just do it, is to just get into action and know that, we're inviting people in to learn more about their community. And this, to me, is Indigenous, right? This is and we're all Indigenous to the land. Yeah. And so this is where we're moving in our community. And so we just want to invite everyone that's watching, whether you're in Halton, Hamilton, Southern Ontario, Northern Ontario, across Canada. We know that there are a lot of people connected with Grandmother's Voice because we are just reaching out and having conversations that need to be had so that we can all move forward. So visit their websites. I think it's so important to find out, what Sustainable Milton is doing, what their plans are this spring. Same with Halton Environmental Network and McQuesten. Kevin, I think you're on. Oh, are you talking to us? No, I'm talking to someone else. Is that Amy? Anyway, and just, noting that next week we're going to have another conversation, and I think we're going to probably, maybe review anything that we may have left out, because it happens in such a short time. We try to get as much in as we can, and then and talk about food security and what it entails. And I think the amount of food to grow. I think you're going to talk about saving the seeds and storage and preservation. And I know we have, yes, Andrea, I've learned so much from you, and I like this is becoming another passion piece for
I
me.
have bags and boxes of seeds. So anybody who comes to me and has questions about gardening, I always say, please, for the love of all that is good in the world, please do not buy any more seeds. Just come and take some of the million that I have and help me get them started.
And that's exactly it. I think that's that's what we want to do. What I'd like to do too is just acknowledge one of our friends in Oswego, Terry Lynn Brandt, and her Mohawk seed keepers organization. She's supporting our organization, our Grandmother's Voice, and our community, and wanting to support our learning from the Indigenous perspectives. And so I'd like to just send a shout out to her and appreciation that we need the guidance of the people that have this knowledge, and she's been kind enough to say, hey, come and spend some time with us, and let's build this. And again, Andrea, share the seeds, right? Share the knowledge so that we can continue to nurture our Mother Earth. So if there's anyone, maybe we can just all to give a quick see ya until next week.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jody.
All right, Yella.